This is a special edition of Jumpstart with CPR. You may already know this gentleman, this remarkable young man, Elder Brother GoBlack2Africa, who has dedicated himself to conducting what I call explanatory research, observational research on the people mentioned in the Bible. And his influence within the virtual community is really taking the world by storm. I say it's outstanding. And thanks to his very compelling interviews, artifacts, including old maps, and the rich oral history is what makes Brother Elder GoBlack2Africa phenomenal as he is. So Brother Elder GoBlack2Africa, welcome to Jumpstart with CPR, and thank you so much for the opportunity to interview you. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for at least asking me, Sister Cheryl. I'm just thankful and honored for you to be here with you.
Absolutely. And I first have to ask the family. How's the family?
Everybody's doing well. I've just got back here to the damn America is what I call it. Put the D in front of America, capitalize the E, damn America. But
right.
Got back here last week with my wife now, and yes, we're having a good time. So yeah, everybody's well.
That's a blessing. We love to see our power couples, and you're no exception. We love the videos with her. I know you receive a lot of comments in terms of where's the wife, and it's always a beautiful thing. I looked at your trip to Asia, and it was a beautiful thing. So we say all praises to the Most High. Thank you so much for really bringing your family and being so open with your testimony. So, Brother GoBlack2Africa, Jumpstart with CPR is a business ministry, and you may not know this. We have a couple of things in common. We're not on Facebook. We are advocates for entrepreneurship. I'm not sure if you know this. And as a former professor, well, once a professor, always a professor, I am advocating for taking our Yah divine or God divine purpose and bringing it to the forefront, putting our passion and purpose into work. And I know you speak very passionately about that, but I want to share a couple of statistics with our audience in terms of your YouTube platform. You have an impressive following, I think more than 311,000 subscribers. And I know you don't look at subscription more than the dollars every month, right? So those checks coming in, and that's a direct quote. You also have more than 890 published thought-provoking videos, which is absolutely remarkable. I have 4 sisters, and we continually converse about, did you see this video versus that video? So absolutely. And I know every family, or almost every family that's in the truth, have a story to tell based on one of your videos. So we are ready to get into the trenches. Are you ready, Brother Elder?
I am ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, Brother GoBlack2Africa, your journey from humble beginnings to becoming, I would say, revered figure in the virtual community is not just a testament to your faith, but also a beacon of inspiration and light for many, especially the young people. Could you share a brief testimony of your transformational journey, including your faith walk and how it has sculpted you into the influential figure that you are today? Really, I'm asking about GoBlack2Africa then and now.
Yeah, definitely it's been a journey since my introduction into this world, introduction into this world that sent me along a path of, well, many paths, I guess, of, you said humble beginnings. There were some trying beginnings when you come from area of what I would call abuse, and in a boxed in type of, I guess, love, which you would call, how one may perceive love. But in saying all that, yes, I had my rocky times in life. I had my tough times of life. And then I became a young adult, and I decided to venture out into a life that I thought I could create and be, just make my own. Found that to be even more destructive than being under, parenting that I thought was really, in its way of abuse and all those other things that came along with it. And keeping this short and simple, I guess, I think we all have our story to tell. I think we all have a journey that we're on. But it came a point in my life where I was confronted with some challenges to where I wanted to take my own life. I did not want to live any further, any longer. And I'm speaking of back in October the 7th of 1994, where I contemplated it. And I had the plan, I had it devised, but I got to a point before I did that. Something that was in me, I called upon God, if you will, that word, God, because that's all I knew at the time. I was not no church goer, Bible reader, or any type of proclaim to be anything. But I called out and said, if there's a God, help me. I'm saying it really kind of like it was simple, but I was crying. I was snotting, tearing, and my mind was really out there, confused and lost. And so, and I tell this story, but and I try to be as accurate as possible without adding to or taking away from it. And only I can tell people is that, at that moment in time, there was just this presence of peace that fell upon me. I didn't see anything. I didn't necessarily hear anything, but there was this presence that hit me. And that presence that hit me put me at a place of peace. Because my mind was weary, my mind was confused, I was at a lost place. And that moment when that peace hit me, it's just hard to describe. It's hard to describe, but it was I would say it was a comforting moment.
Right.
And from that point forward, there was something that changed in me. And that moment I got up, I was a different man.
Amen.
I was a different man. And when I say different man, it was an epiphany. It was an awakening. It was an eye-opening experience to where I saw things different through my eyes. I saw my ways that I was living. It's kind of hard. You ever see those cars go, you take a card, deck of cards, go,
right,
and you can see the queen, the ace, the one, the two. It was almost like at an instant, I saw where I was, where I came from, in this dark place, and then all of a sudden, this change came in me where I want to do different.
Right.
And at that moment in October of that 7th of 1994, that next day, I had stopped everything that I would say that was not fruitful. I was in the streets, I was drinking, I was running women, I was doing all these things. And it was just amazing. I didn't want no more part of it.
Amen. Amen. It sounds like a Paul to Paul conversion. Almost like.
I will say a full conversion. I don't know. I can really see my journey of the processes of the layers that were being taken, stripped away from me. Because, we carry, I had 28 years of garbage in me.
Right.
And there was a lot of beliefs and a lot of my perspectives that just needed to be changed. And it took some years to get where I am today and see things even more clear. And there's a whole lot more layers I need to get rid of. I wouldn't say full conversion, but it was a process.
Right. And so the man today, knowing that we know that in our community as we speak, even in this era of wokeness, we know there's variations here or there, but there's a level of understanding the roots, our history. And that's something we didn't have before. So tell us about the man today in terms of what you're doing. And then I'm going to get into some of my favorite videos. They're really all my favorites, but I'm going to start with the most current. So let's hear about the man today and what you're doing.
Yeah. The man that you see before you today, a man who just tries to do what is right. And that right is following the very words that I have been shown or heard or even read. Because even some people don't like the Bible, they don't like, I call them ancient writing scriptures, or you call them the scrolls. the spirit that woke me up basically aligns me with those things to know and discern what is right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is where I try to walk in, of knowing what is right. Today, I was on the Metro rails today here in Minneapolis,
Mm-hmm.
and a group of youth came on and just came and disturbed the whole atmosphere.
Wow.
And in one sense, it was disheartening. But then the Spirit Most High reminded me and said, find the old you and see where you see in them. And I found that old me in them. And I was prompted, I asked three of the youth, I said, excuse me, y'all, how old are y'all? Two were 19 and one was 14. The one was one male, he was 19, the other female was 19, and the other one was a female that was 14. And though they were, I can tell they were reckless, just like I was. They had no concern about the surroundings. And there is that darkness I saw that I had that was in them. And I simply said to them, the young 14-year-old, when I asked them their age, she said, I'm 14 and I don't give a F about anybody, any, N words or
Right.
B's or
Wow.
anything. And I said to her, man, it sounds like you have been hurt. And she said, yes, I have. And of course, immediately there was an interruption that happened that just took them off. But I knew that they were not even, there was no connection because I knew they are still in their place. But when the rail stopped, I got up and I said, y'all be safe. I said, y'all remind me when I was your youth, at your age. I said, y'all be safe and take care. And they said, okay, all right, bye. And I got off. So the man that I am today, I recognize the darkness in people. I recognize and see the hurt in people. And I try to add a word of kindness or a word of love from the Most High. And I try to bring awareness to people. I try to bring maybe some answers to people.
Right.
That's the man I am today.
Right. Absolutely. And I think a lot of that really comes over and through in terms of your videos. Your passion for the community, regardless of where your travels take you, certainly holds true. And I think your audience can certainly see that. And we're going to jump right into now our program. Jumpstart with CPR is a business program ministry, and we're here to encourage the members throughout the diaspora to follow their divine purpose, as I stated. And it's important to know that when you know your divine purpose, according to Jeremiah 29:11, you want to ensure that your passion lines up with that profession. And your video that you did and was published, I believe, was last week, you really focus on, and the theme was, and I'm going to read it directly, and I quote, back in the US, must listen why we Blacks have it better than other countries, from that blog. And I want to get into a little bit about that, looking at the financial or the salary of Black Americans in of course, in the US, as well as the education, as you stated. Those were the two main criteria you looked at. Expound on that for the audience.
Yeah, I've been to, over 50, 60 countries in the world. I've lived in over 12 different countries.
Oh, wow.
I've been to all the 50 United States, South America, North America, Asia, I've been to majority of those places. And everywhere I've been, when it is concerning us people who are of African descent or of melanated or whatever name you want to call yourself, I find that we are typically at the bottom of society. But yet I see that here in America, on an educational and a financial level, we stand supreme than most from other countries in that aspect. That's just it. I mean,
right.
And it's something that when I see that other people in other countries, don't even have that opportunity, don't have a means of education or even a job, that we do stand in the front of the all the countries I've been to when it comes to Black people in that opportunity of getting an education and a job. I would say, in my humble opinion, America, Black people stands up in the front of the line.
Right. And I think you also indicated the poorest of us, it's really compared to the others throughout globally in the diaspora, it's really no competition economic wise.
Our poor people here in America would be considered rich compared to many other poor people across the globe.
Wow.
It is. I have seen people, even the people who live in America, who lives on the streets. We have so much resources. Churches donate food and tents and clothes and give housing. Churches open up doors during winter times and shelters. And there are countries, there's no place for people to go who may be poor, living out on the streets or living in the hut, a hut without air conditioner or a fan or electricity or plumbing. Or, I've seen it. I mean, yes.
Yeah. So what is it that we're missing? So if we have in terms of salaries and education, and what is the disparity in terms of some of us not getting it together, and also the desire to relocate and see a better quality of life. And for me, when I look at work-life balance, you have those with maybe the security in terms of the salary is a little higher, but you still have to work 16, 18 hours to get a decent salary. And then you want to consider when you're on the verge of retirement, in 2 months or 3 months, you hear the bad news. Oh, so-and-so passed just before retirement or just after retirement. So I think a lot of individuals within the United States, we're looking, when I travel, I look at the quality of life, just meaning the slow pace. So connect that to us in terms of security, education versus the quality of life, and where is the middle ground? What are we looking at? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the video I made mention that education and a job really has nothing to do with where you stand spiritually. I know people who make millions of dollars who are suffering mentally.
Yes.
Destroyed families. They're depressed. They're on drugs. They are, so the job and the money is not really where the liberty and the freedoms really hold. I mean, but when I say that the job and the money, meaning that, there are many immigrants that come to America and take advantage of those benefits that might be out there to help support their families or send money back home. They'll build their houses, whatever. And so in saying that, with education and money, if knowing how to utilize it, it can definitely bring you more freedoms and liberties in one sense. And that, what I mean by that is, we must eat. We be wanting a roof over our head. We're wanting clothes on our back. It says scripturally, a man don't eat unless he works. So
that's right.
If we understand that, then okay, why not go get an education when a system says you're going to get paid more, and you getting compensated more for more of your education? Then why not then hire that education on one side? Because on the other side, I'm an entrepreneur. You could there's not just working for somebody, you also can create for yourself. I think that when you go work for somebody, I look at that as just a stepping stone, because it's going to teach you how to, for those who don't have a discipline, to clock in and put in a full day's work. I've seen many people start their own businesses, but yet they're poor managers in their own business. They don't hold themselves accountable to open the shop on time, close at the proper time, give your 100% like you would give to working for this boss over here, you know,
Right.
knowing how to balance, you know, like you said, a work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Mm-hmm.
used to be one who worked myself in the ground. I didn't
Right.
know about resting and, you know, the appreciating, you know, the Sabbath and what
Mm-hmm.
that meant, rejuvenating one's spirit and mind and soul to be able to go the next 6 days and work that out. Because here in America, we're only taught how to work
Mm-hmm.
and to work overtime, to continues. We don't know how to rest. Africa's taught me how to, you know, even though you see people working their butts off in Africa,
Right.
you
Right.
know, you're still going to see them kind of laid back and be like, look, don't
Yeah.
worry about it. You know, we ain't got to get this done by tomorrow. I mean, hey,
Right.
do a
Right.
little today, a little tomorrow.
Right.
There's no rush.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard about the cultural differences. So are there any African countries that stood out throughout your travels that you may deem to be an economic hub for those entrepreneurial minded individuals like myself or others who want to
Yeah.
take the opportunity and seize that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've been to 34 African countries, and you know, if I'm speaking on behalf of just United States, I mean, then I have to consider we are limited in language. So then there are African countries that only speak certain languages when it comes
Mm.
to what we're familiar for. For instance, I mean, you know, you got 13 African countries that speaks French. Well, we don't speak French, so that's not a country I would recommend you go, you know, and try to do business unless you speak French. You know, you got three African countries, or excuse me, four African countries that speak Portuguese. You know, if you don't know how to speak Portuguese, then there's a challenge there. So, you know, there are some African countries that are English speaking. That if one was wanting to go into a business venture, that they can do pretty well. And most of them that I found, you as long as you are, you know, getting the proper paperwork in order, you know,
Right.
you know, you got to get your business visa. You have to, you know, go through those channels to make sure you have there. But you know, most people go for like Ghana, South Africa. Um, I know people in Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, who are doing business
Mm-hmm.
there in those countries, and they, for the most part, speak, you know, English. So, you know, there is, and with the African countries, there's little red tape or bureaucracy for you to even start a business. You
Right.
know, here in America, you gotta have either a license in that profession, a degree in that profession, or you must have some type of um, um, you know, education
Mm-hmm.
where some of these African countries is like, look, if you got the money and you want to start it, go for it.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. In terms of due diligence, what's the top
Yes.
two things anyone in America that's interested in doing any type of business in the motherland, what will be the two top or three top things in terms of due diligence they should be doing now in anticipation?
I've said this time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing business in America, how in the world do you think you can start a business in a foreign country? Start a business in America or wherever you might be, wherever, you know, whoever's
Right.
listening in. I mean, I've met so many people who go to Africa trying to start a business, but never even owned a business.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. You know, it doesn't mean that at all. All I'm saying is just educating yourself. So, if you know, what do? Prepare. Number one, top thing is preparation. I find that even in America, and I've looked this up percentage wise, 80% of Black businesses fail within the first 18 months.
Yes, absolutely.
Lack of preparation, lack of knowledge, education.
Yep.
And so, you know, we have to, in order to do diligence, you have to make sure that you are, you know, educated
Mm-hmm.
in that area of the type of business that you want to do. I mean, if you're not, you're screaming failure already from the get go.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Absolutely. Preparation is key. And in terms of hard work, many of it is indeed that preparation that comes into it. And it makes sense. In an environment where you work and play all your life, if you're unable to start and be successful in that particular business, in that home region, it makes it a lot more challenging when you have to look at laws and different nuances, including culture, language barriers, etc. So absolutely, preparation is indeed key, like anything else.
So the second is knowing the country that you're wanting to go to. Mm-hmm. How do you get your footing in there? In other words, I know a guy right now, mm-hmm. and I interviewed him. I won't mention his name, but mm-hmm. he established a business, mm-hmm. built his home, mm-hmm. and they turned down his license that he had because they found out that the type of business he had is only supposed to be for the locals.
Oh.
So it messed up his business visa for him to do business there, which then he, his wife, and his 2 kids had to leave the country.
Wow.
Because the regular visa was expired and it was riding off of their business visa. They had to go outside the country to neighboring country and apply, because they had to leave out and then I'll come back in. He said they stayed 30 days. They could have just been out for 48 hours or something like that, but then had to come back to reapply for a tourist visa. So my second thing is that you must know the type of business that you're wanting to do in a country. How's that country? What are their laws? I mean, you know, starting a business, you know, most African countries, you know, their concern is, and most countries and most of these businesses that are in these countries, they want to make sure you're not coming to take opportunities from their own people. They want to make sure that the type of business you're doing is going to bring jobs for their people.
Right.
So if you're wanting to start a business, it must be something that the local people just don't have the finances or the ability to start those businesses. Mm-hmm. Just so happened the type of business he was doing, locals can do that business.
Oh, I see.
So it behooves one to understand the laws. So that's the second thing, is that, okay, you want to do a business over in Africa? No problem. Okay, well, you better make sure that type of business you're doing will qualify you to get that type of license that will not intrude on a local business.
Right, the economy there. So is there some sort of portal, or business form, or is there a business minister of department that help guide that person that's currently on the outside, or you have to be within a country to do the legwork?
Well, I tell people, you better go there and be on the ground.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, because there's countries out here that, you know, and I found, not just Africa, but when you're trying to do business, you need to be there on the ground and you need to feel out and get an understanding of how things work. You know, it's not that, you know, you have a business idea and then all of a sudden you want to go to this country and you want to open up a business. I say, no, what's the rush? You best. I tell people, wait a year. Wait a year. Because I've met people who wants to come into these countries, build up a house, try to start a business. And it's like, what is the rush? You better understand that, you know, how does this country work? Even how are the people that you're going to be living around? Are you even, you know, conducive to your surrounding? Is that business even needed where you're talking about trying to start it? You know, is it receptive? What is your plan when it comes to open up a business? The price ranges and all that. Who are you catering to? Is it an international business? Is it for the locals? Is it for just the foreigners? What's the prices on it? I mean, who's going to be able to afford what you're trying to? It takes you to sit down and do a market analysis around that city that you're in. That takes time.
Right, it does. Yeah.
And you need to be there on the ground, living there and seeing, is this something that they need? Or is there a need for it? Is it something that I want to do?
Yeah. And I can appreciate you putting on your business hat and saying you need to do a thorough market analysis. We've just completed on my radio program the market analysis, and now we're into customer segmentation, which is what you're also going to need in terms of what is the need within that area and for you, the environment. So that is certainly head on.
My third is, you know, and I've kind of already talked about, you know, that, you know, and that was one, planning before you even go to the country. Two, once you get there is, you know, settling down and finding the need, finding out who are your competitors when it comes to doing a market analysis, the pricing and all that stuff there. But then once you got that established, and if you're going to, you know, pull the trigger and start your business, I mean, now you have to, you know, really think about your short planning and your long-term planning. And what I mean by that is sometimes, you know, we as business owners, we don't have a foresight of we think of business, you just start a business and just let it run. We don't think about, okay, the changing trends that might happen, how to even maintain, how to build, how to take it to the next level, you know, how to know whether or not, you know, where you put this business at, you know, what's everything that surrounds this business, because it's a different ball game when you talk about, for instance, Ghana. Ghana right now has going through a tremendous inflation rise. Just in last year, May, the trade for $1 was only 5 CDs. So for every $1, I was able to get 5 of their CDs. It is now for every $1, I get 15 other CDs.
Oh wow! Okay.
So even though the prices of things have gone up, I still am reaping more. You know, it's better for me to go ahead and I can get more of their dollars. But on the business side, depending on the type of business, you gotta consider that your pricing on that business, are people paying by the US dollar? Are they paying by the local money? And then how are you purchasing your products when they come in? You know, whatever it might be. I mean, even it might not be products. It could be you have a gold mine or whatever. Prices change, price influxes and inflations and all of these things. Now, how do you deal with that once you got the business up and running?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. And I think also looking at the changes in leadership, if you want to call it changing of the guard. So there's a level of instability.
Yes.
I say stability when you have the right leader in place, right? And the individuals who have been pocketing the money ousted. I call that stability. Having that level of stability, that certainly affects the economy, and it's a domino effect. So absolutely. Do you recommend identifying a partner or collaborator to facilitate, someone who understands the nuances, the laws, the regs, the market, competitors? Would that be a top recommendation?
Of course. I mean, even if you're here in America or wherever you are, I tell people that whatever business that you have an interest in, find the person who's doing it. Find your mentor. Find the person who's got the experience. Pick their brain. I mean, because this life is not about doing everything by yourself. I mean, it's impossibility. You're going to need people. You're going to need help. Especially going to a foreign country, because the ball game is totally different.
Yeah.
It's totally different in the approach of doing business, because there are some areas where there is no necessary a policy. Like, I'll give an example, you know, in some African countries, right? You can go through the regular process of paperwork, submitting it. But you're going to find that's going to take probably twice or three times as long to get the return, because in these countries here, it's about, there's an attachment to that paperwork called money to get it through quicker. You know what I mean? And some people call it corruption, but I don't look at it as corruption, because here in America, we call it expedited. Do you want the fast track? You're gonna have to pay for something to be expedited. You know, do you want your passport back in 4 weeks to 6 weeks, or do you want it back in 2 weeks? And it's gonna cost you more money. Africa don't have the fast track called expedited. It's called attach some money to this paper, and then we can send it through, and you can get it back. Sometimes that day, you know, depending on it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. Now, your comment, Israel as a nation, and the importance of working together as a team, as a unit, as a nation, like other nations, right? Talk to us a little bit about the lack of unity and what's needed. We know that, you know, until that time comes, there might be a level of division, but there's still a lot of infighting within. Talk to us a little bit about that. Still focusing on business, but how do we come together to do business when everything is that crab in the barrel mentality still?
It's a very tricky game today because there's a lot of snakes out there, per se, because there are just those who will take advantage of their own people. And, you know, I say that, you know, there must be like spirits, you know, and I say like spirits, you know, because I can say the Most High, and somebody else can have a total different meaning of what that is to them.
Right.
They may say God, they may say Jesus, they may have they may call themselves Christians, they may call themselves Hebrews, they may call themselves Israelites, and have a total different spirit about them that just will not unite us spiritually to be able to build as a unit. And so that's the tricky part about it, is because people who use these words, you know, trying to identify themselves with the Most High, sometimes are the most difficult ones to even try to unite with.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And so I do a lot of just, I have a lot of associates and little friends. I have some spiritual connections with brothers and sisters, but they're very small and few. Very small and few, because I already realized that, you know, we have so many different backgrounds and experiences that where you may see something in the way that might be right to you, I might say, I don't see that way. Right. Doesn't mean I'm gonna throw you out or put you aside, but that's something then that if we're going to collectively collaborate or do business, then there should be something in the center focus, the Most High, you know, the spirit of the Most High, which is, you know, I say Yeshua, that's the spirit of salvation. If we can come to that agreement, okay, then let's try to build from there. But not everybody, when we talk about being connected spiritually, is a business-minded person. They may lack the knowledge and experience in that area. Right. You know, and so now there's because a business mindset of how you run business, everybody has their own mindset, how they're going to do that. Yeah. My own son don't want to do business with me. Yeah. Because he says I'm picky and I'm stubborn. This is from last week. And he says, you know, I can't do business with you. And I said, son, I understand. That's okay. That's all right. Because you call it picky and stubborn, but you don't understand. I'm the one putting the money up. Right. Right. I'm the one who's funding everything. Yeah. You have nothing to lose, and I have everything to lose. Right. So yes, I am going to be stubborn in certain areas, and I'm going to be very picky because I'm the one footing the bill on everything. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, because I see two things there. Like you said,
when you are investing everything, you have a different perspective as opposed to someone that's shooting the breeze. And we also have to know, I'm Generation X, and I think millennials and Generation Z is completely out of this world, of this hemisphere. Their mindsets are a lot different. Now, we still need to learn to work together, but their perspectives are certainly a lot different. And the reality is, I don't know how many fathers and sons and mothers and daughters, even a simple thing as driving. Most individuals recommend you go to a pro rather than to drive with a family member. So I can certainly understand that. And I think we've all undergone that experience and expression from the youth. So I appreciate that. I want to get into a little bit, as time is ticking away, a few other areas. One of the things I want to get into is the security living and working in Africa, especially for single sisters. Could you share with us a little bit about that? And in terms of the level of safety that we all should be taking as a level of precaution?
Yeah, you know, I love our dear sisters. You know, I love my sisters, and sometimes people think there's a small minority out here that think I'm just crazy when it comes to really expressing my feelings about the security of our women. Mm-hmm. And there are many women I've come across who travel alone. Mm-hmm. Met those who even travel, single mothers traveling with their children. And I've seen women who's gotten taken advantage of. I've interviewed a young woman who was violated on her journey traveling and was drugged and was violated. And it's very disheartening for me when I see that these very adventurous women who are out here traveling, which I have no problem with, but the level of security, or let me just say that the awareness they should have when they're traveling should always be in the forefront in their traveling, because women are at a huge disadvantage, especially traveling overseas. And the reason why I say especially traveling overseas, because number one, you're in a country that, one, you don't even know the law. Number two, you don't even know the person. Number three, to even try to identify somebody who's even taking advantage of you, it's almost like impossible when you talk about language barriers, when you talk about, the areas that you might be in, or, not having the connection of a unit of people that can assist you. It's a huge disadvantage. Yeah. And so, I just try to educate the women that, you must connect, with, I know that the women just love to travel by themselves and stuff. But when I say that there should be some type of male person in that circle of traveling, right? And I'm, because I'll tell you this right here too. Most women will take that as have to be in a personal relationship with a guy, right? Yeah, right. And I'm like, no, that don't go that route first. Yeah. You seek out the elder, especially the women, the elder women, and then the elder women, especially in Africa, are going to have some elder men who you can trust that are overseeing or taking care of the security of their people. Yeah, absolutely. And but traveling by oneself, oh my goodness, it's, yeah. I know I walk around with my head on swivel. I'm always checking my security. Mm-hmm. I almost got pickpocketed. I got attacked, and I'm a man. Yeah. And it's important. I remember when I was younger, I traveled to Europe, in Spain more specifically. And I remember I was strapped with my pepper spray, my Swiss Army knife, and my whistle. My friend was saying, "You don't need all that." We did. And we literally had to run for our life. And I was in my 20s then. I think
witnessing what we've seen for the past few months and maybe even a couple of years in terms of what's going on, I think that's sage advice. And this is not about Miss Independence, it's about safety and security, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Is it specific to, based on all the areas you've traveled, Asia, South America, of course, North America, Africa, is the greatest safety concern in the motherland from your perspective in today's
I think
world?
the safety concern is everywhere, but I think because I would say Africa is, you know, it's a, sometimes we think all kinfolk, you know,
Right.
it's skin, it's how they say, you know.
Yep. Yep. Well, skin folk is not kinfolk. Yeah.
Right. So we can get comfortable.
Yes.
And we think that, you know, everybody's family. And so those who look like you get a little comfortable, lax, whatever, and yet you may find yourself in a predicament to where you're being taken advantage of, you know. And so I say when it comes to like the motherland, I have done videos of, you know, people being taken advantage of that's cost people their lives.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and these were relationships, some of the women that were in. And it's sad because when you're going to a continent that you think that, you know, it's home or it's family, and yet you're really looked upon as a means of money or even potentially, you know, the green card to get into the country you're coming from, you know, it's a tough situation for a person to know who is who.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it was very important that you spoke on those issues and bringing that security issue to the forefront. I think many women, as a result of your platform, we took heed. I certainly had a listening ear, and we do appreciate you for bringing just the facts. And that's very important. Now we're going to pivot a little bit. 2 weeks ago, you did 2 videos. It might have been last week or 2 weeks ago about the true Israel, old Israel, Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And again, blown away. And your videos are frequently referenced by other content creators. So again, your research is sound and you bring some really tangible artifacts, etc., to the forefront. Speak to us a little bit about your findings.
Yeah, you know, Ethiopia is a special country. Everybody should go visit Ethiopia. There is a spirit that is, I just can't describe it. It's different. And the one thing I can say, especially about Ethiopia, even though it has its religions of Christianity and the Orthodox, you know, the different religions that are there. What I kind of like about Ethiopia is that they really shun the West way of life. They hold on to their traditions, meaning, you know, their culture. They don't want to, when you're there, you know, they don't want to listen to America rap songs, and they got their own songs, their own dances, their own foods. So you don't see a lot of westernized way of life. I mean, you're gonna see it there because you have foreign investors that are there and cafes and restaurants and maybe some different businesses. But as a whole, they hold on to some old traditions. In my findings, with my interviews, not only in Ethiopia, but even the scattered in Africa, there are the Limba tribes, there are the Igbo tribes, the Yoruba, you know, who have a rich history of knowing who they are and how they're connected to the people that we call the Bible. And, you know, I did the video just to put out just recently about Ethiopia, Yeha, or they would say Jerusalem, is to kind of show people that before 1948, when they created this Israel, there was the Jerusalem. Now, there are other countries who want to say Jerusalem is there, this and that. I
Right.
mean, but Jerusalem, I mean, is the land of peace, the land of milk and honey. So some people will call their place, their country, whatever, because it's all one continent. I mean, if you really look at it, it's not that before there were borders, it was just a land. And how far does the land of milk and honey goes, really?
That's right.
So in my journey and my interviews and my research, nobody can convince me that what they call Israel today is the real Jerusalem or Israel. There's just no way, because there's too much information out here by the colonizers, by the slave traders, by the explorers who wrote in their books about the continent of the Jews, the Black people, the lost tribes, about Jerusalem, about who were these different areas around the continent that they've labeled the kingdom of Judah. Even scriptures point out simply, when you stand in Uganda, you stand in Rwanda, you stand in Kenya, and you're on the safaris in Kenya or Tanzania, and the Bible speaks of these animals.
Yeah,
it's
exotic
the
animals.
only place that the animals reside as a whole, that they have an instinctive way of, that just, to me, it just points out the truth, is that, hold up, man can't take a group of animals out of their own, domain and shift them over here into Africa. No, this is where the animals are. The rivers, the landscapes, the everything that's mentioned in scripture is there.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. My elder would say that even what we call the unicorn is really the rhinoceros, which can live in Africa.
Yeah. When we realize that, when you go into Africa and you see that names have been changed, right? When you say Lake Victoria, you're like, you ask the locals, hold up now, that's not called Lake Victoria. What's the name? Oh, it's called this. I can't remember the name of it. Or you see that rivers' names have been changed, or you see that, of course, the countries now that have been created in 1885 from the Berlin Conference and the dividing of the continent. When you see here in America, it's been changed, and you see where the Europeans have gone, they've changed names. And so then they go ahead and plant names where they want people to believe where things are. And yet the truth still remains, because of the Africans who are there. They have their oral histories, because many of the Europeans came and burnt up books. They burnt up the villages and burnt up history, but the oral traditions still remain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oral history still stands. And in the world of research, we know it's still very acceptable. So we're still in the area of the continent. Let's look at leadership, modern day leadership today, as we consider the EAS or ASE from made up of Mali, Niger, and I believe Burkina Faso. Speak to us. I'm excited about the young leaders. What is your take on the militia, I call moral leadership, based on what's going on today? And again, those who are still are the puppets of the West. Speak to us about leadership and how the younger generation are really taking the bull by the horn and pivoting, making a difference in their respective countries.
Yeah. There's a purging that's going on, a cleansing. And, those social media, sometimes on one side, you see the devilment that is happening, but you also see the education it's providing. It's waking up, like you said, the youth. The youth are beginning to see now beyond their borders of their countries and seeing everything more now on a larger scale internationally. And they're starting to see how some of these other countries are operating and prospering off of their own resources, and seeing the suffering that's happening in their countries while others may be thriving. And so, whether it was Ibrahim Traore from in Burkina Faso, whether it is Chad, whether it's Mali, whether it's Niger. These countries now are starting to bind and build together because they gotten tired of the French, the U.S., these Russia coming in and controlling them, creating chaos, and having them believe there is a problematic issue with terrorists, finding out they're the ones supplying and creating the terrorists.
Right.
So the leadership is definitely changing, because just like Burkina Faso, young man 32, 33 years old, who got tired, and many others like him before him, who either tried to remove the leadership at hand, tried to come in and change the whole demographics of doing this business. It's happening, but I think people still need to understand that, you know, the West is pissed and they will retaliate. And so, you know, we must be prepared for that. And my thing is that in that preparation, you know, get your people ready, because, you know, by history, anything the European cannot have in control, they will destroy it or attempt to try to destroy it. Right. But I believe that if we together collectively, through the Most High, lean on the Most High is the Savior, and it is the power beyond the power of what America or the Europeans have military-wise.
Absolutely.
And so that's the unity that I talk of. We must come together spiritually in unity, because the West, the French know that they are losing, and it's already been foretold that the French would be impoverished if it was not for Africa.
That's right. That's right. And what I have found, I find it so disturbing. And it takes someone without a soul, not out of soul, without a heart, to think that they can pilfer, take all the resources, export it back to their countries, create material and furnishings, a whole 9 yards, and resell it to those countries at a higher price. And so what I love, and I'm going to point out Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, one of my favorites, is that he took the bull by the horn and really called out the French and saying, not anymore, not on my watch. And it was almost transformational to see that the youth, there are many stakeholders, but the youth really reinforced, and as a result of their vote, that charter that would have expired in July, I'm sure you already know, that he got an additional 5 years, and now he's officially the president of Burkina Faso. And speak to me a little bit about the importance of moral leadership when he himself took a cut in salary, and asked a lot of members of his cabinet to take a cut as well. We explore a little bit about that on Jumpstart with CPR. Why is it important that a moral leader is needed more than ever?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I think about when in scripture, when it talks about the kings became corrupt, the prophets became corrupt, they all were, you know, followed evil. They followed evil. They followed wickedness. And then what happens when those leaders follow corruption or evilness? The whole nation suffers.
That's right.
And so now that the new generation coming up is seeing the fact that, you know, if we follow the morality or follow the having integrity and you know, able to do right, you know, by the people, we all win. Because, you know, the older leadership today are all been puppets, because of independence happened 60 years ago for most of the African countries. Many of them were not prepared, let alone equipped to even run a country.
Right.
And many of them linked for aid by these countries that had no other motives but to control them. So
Right.
money was the means of controlling these people.
Mm-hmm.
When you see, Abraham Traore, who says, I'm going to take a pay cut,
Mm-hmm.
and I want the leadership to take a pay cut, speaks volumes, because now what he's saying is that you can't buy me.
That's right.
You can't purchase me, because
Right.
money doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
So, and the people are really jumping on board. His people are seeing, wow, this is the same thing in a sense of what Paul Kagame did in Rwanda.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Though his approach may have been a little different, and he had probably more of a worldly interest because of the genocide, and there was a lot that people poured in money to build this country back up. He recognized that in order for this country to survive and not bring in some other wolves to turn it upside down, I'm going to go ahead and reelect myself for another 5 years to another 5 years. And he's been in there 25 years.
That's right.
And I get it because he is trying to do right by the people and the future of the country.
Right.
By keeping out those people who are potentially could be puppets by the Western world.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this brings me to the scripture, Isaiah 5:20, right? Woe to he that calls evil good and good evil, bittersweet and sweet bitter. So here you have the United States and other Western countries talking about democracy.
Yeah.
We know they're selected, not elected. And here you have other leaders talking about ensuring that their citizens are taken care of. And even if it means they're in power for so many years, as you stated befittingly, money, the paper currency, cannot corrupt them, right? If you consider the International Monetary Fund, right? They were like the Trojan horse coming into these countries, attempting to sway them with a few $1 million. And I'm sure when you were able to convert the money, just talking about billions in their currency. However, they saw that 1% or less, including maybe they and their families, living a life of affluence or opulence compared to everyone else that's in poverty. The math is not mathing, right? And they were able to see it for what it is. So I think there's clearly an awakening all over. And there's something to be said about, there's a younger generation that I'm hopeful about, whether it's like you said in Yeshaya's kingdom, but we do see there is something that's happening in the spiritual realm. What's happening in the spiritual, celestial will indeed take place in the terrestrial. What I want to do is to kind of wind down, because I know you're tired. You have business to take care of and families to take care of. We want to wind down with that wonderful trip with your wife took to Asia, and I believe it was Europe, Portugal, some of the other countries as well. And inspiring minds want to know, when you're coming to the Caribbean, like Drake, when is GoBlack2Africa?
Where specifically?
Wherever you want, because it's all beautiful. I'm from Trinidad. We have Antigua. I just came back from a business trip there. Jamaica. We have a lot of individuals in the West trying to dissuade individuals from tourism going there. What to go against whatever policy. So there's so many different things, but there is also historical record, right, from the transatlantic slave trade. The first stop is in Barbados. Maybe that's where you want to go.
Me and my wife was down in Aruba.
Oh, nice.
Curacao. We were down there 2 years ago, and we have been to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. But as far as Barbados and all that right there, she just asked me the day about where's our next trip going to be.
There you go.
Because we kind of throw some things out there, and hey, give us the invitation. We'll come.
Very, very well. They're one of the warmest groups of individuals, and I have to say, a very rich history. And I was never a history buff until I woke up. So definitely, I'll be happy to send you some information
Please
But my
do. Yeah.
less than a month ago was Antigua for business. Beautiful island, beautiful people.
Mm.
One of the disheartening things is looking at the local resources and the younger generation not tapping into it. So we're trying to do some work with the locals there, and really giving them the business mindset to what it is, whether it's agriculture, whether it's the tech sector, whatever it is, so they indeed can empower themselves and move forward. Having said that, I have a couple of last questions for you. On YouTube, you did a love connection with your son. What was the result of that? Did he agree
Oh,
on that?
nothing came out of that. He wasn't really serious to that in that place. You know, I was kind of really still telling him I want to find him his wife. You know,
Yeah.
in Africa. I tell my daughters, you know, that even my oldest, she now is connected with a young man here. But my youngest, I say, still, I'm gonna find you your husband.
Yeah. I
You
think
know,
that's a good
but
thing. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but no, that was an idea that me and my man there in Uganda came up with for his show that he was doing, his dating show.
Yeah.
And I just came up with the idea, say, hey man, let's do something with a parent, man, is trying to find, you
Yeah.
know, child that. So I'm serious about it, but it's just, you know, the particular women that were there, said he didn't have an interest for it, which is okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see
Well,
what comes out.
I think as a parent, it behooves you to do the search. When I was younger, I didn't believe in that, but now I understand fully, come full circle. I think it's very important. I think this is something that most cultures in the East subscribe to. And what it
Yeah.
does really take away some of the minutia of dating as opposed to just focusing on overall value that that person is bringing to the table. So that's something you definitely may want to continue despite the woes. And I think your son and daughter will be very happy
Yeah.
that stepped in on their behalf. I think we need that. I do a little bit of toiling myself, trying to get the youth together. So what's
Yeah.
next for Black on where's your next travel officially in addition to the Caribbean?
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, I got 20 more countries to finish off in Africa,
Oh,
you
wow.
know.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm going to be getting back there hopefully here in the next couple of months. But, you know, I really don't have concrete written in stone places I go. I really just, whatever doors open up. Like I
Yeah.
said, you know, I have people who reach out to me. I was in Brazil. And the only
Yeah.
reason I went to Brazil, I got an invitation, and they said, "Hey, maybe you want to come check out, you know, the African festival that they have here." And they told me about it, and I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll come over there and experience that." So I went over there, and then I went up to Rio, and my main focus was trying to get over to Salvador. I didn't get over there, but I will. But you know, I tell people, give me an invite, give me the information, and I'm gonna try to go ahead and find my way over there. That's how I went down to Aruba. I
Yeah.
had a brother down there. He reached out to me, him and his
Mhm.
wife, and they said, "Hey, why don't you come down here, man? And we got us a history down here too, you know,
Right.
down
Okay.
in Aruba." And so I did a video. It's on my channel there,
Mhm.
and him and his band did a song there that I actually used as an introduction, and he did a poem. It was an outstanding poem.
Mhm.
African music played, and he talked about the struggles of the people. Check that out. It's when I was
Yeah.
down.
Can you provide our youth with some final words in this awakening process? There are so many things that's going on, and
Yeah.
it's about, keeping Yah, God first in your faith walk. The whole concept of Jumpstart with CPR and my company, Consultant Proficiency Resources, is understanding, regardless of what you do in business, you have to hold on to those Torah principles, ethical
Yeah.
principles. It's all laid out. We shouldn't be second
Yeah.
guessing ourselves.
Yeah.
An elder, what do you say to our youth as our closing words?
Yeah. You know, I made mention of the youth I talked to today,
Mm-hmm.
and I really saw the darkness. And when I asked the 14-year-old after she said she didn't give a F about anybody, and I said, you must have really been hurt. And she said, yes. And, you know, I know we come from different backgrounds. Everybody has their story. But my thing is that, you know, the Most High, like you said, it's not just, you know, believing that there is the Most High. There was a universal law that was put for us.
Mm.
Call it commandments or laws, however which way you want to. Man has stated there are laws that you got to abide by, and if not, you get arrested, you go to jail. There is a universal way of living. And if you live in that universal way, you will find yourself with probably little to no life situational problems that we bring upon ourselves.
That's right.
In saying that, reach out to the elders, because we've bumped our heads so many times and we know what we went through, and we can help you through what you are going to be pressured through this crazy world that will tell you the contrary to what the truth or the universal way of living is. You know, we all were young and we all want to live our life the way we want to live. And yet there are those who weren't fortunate as others, who fell off, who went too far down the wrong road. I see them out here strung out on the drugs, prostituting themselves, quitting, you know, gave up on life. Some committed suicide. Some have gone on and, you know, have, you know, brought life in having children that was not at the right time of their life. You know, those who have brought on a lot of, carried a lot of misery from suffering, you know, and we can overcome if we just submit to the power that is. And so, in saying that is, you know, even though, you know, many people like to reject the wisdom of those who may be at an eldership position, because not all older people are elders or even should be listened to, but those who have the counsel of the Most High, and that is the righteous word. Amen. To provide a person, to teach a person to stay on that right track. That's what I would say to the youth is to lean on, find the Most High, not just outside of you, but inside of you. And then having the elders, because just because I'm not your dad or your mom does not mean. I love Africa. When they call me uncle. Right. They call me, that's just respect. That's right. I don't have to be your biological, but yet I have a heart and a concern for you, because the Most High put man and woman in charge over the youth, not just your own. Right. We have an inherent duty to make sure that our youth follow the way, the truth, and the life, which is the spirit of the Most High, which we would say Yeshua, we would say Christ, the Messiah. Well, you know, this is the truth, not the world's way, because we know, and most youth know, the way they're going is definitely pain and suffering. It really is. Really is. Yeah. And I think that's certainly painful when you're in the truth and you see what's happening when your blinders have been lifted and you see the full light. It's very hard thing to see, but we know that the Most High works in a way that, you know, one person may plant the seed and someone else has an opportunity to put a water or put some sunshine, and ultimately the Spirit of the Most High will make a difference in that person's life. So, you know, to the youth, you are powerful, because that which created you is powerful. No matter what, who, or how has happened in your life, the power always rises higher than that. And all you have to do is tap into that power, and you shall overcome it. When you see that those who try to destroy you, who try to put you away, the day shall come where your heart will turn away from the anger towards them to an understanding to realize that was also done to them. So we have the power to paint our picture, to create our future, because we are creators. Everything around us that has been attached to the earth, we created.
That's right. Yeah.
Everything, the clothes, the cars, the houses, the buildings, the cameras, everything. We are creators. But most importantly, we are creators because we are the representative of the Most High. And I say that to the youth people, get connected back to the power, because those who were disconnected may have harmed you, may have done wrong to you, only because they were disconnected. Get reconnected.
And that's the last word. I couldn't say it better myself. Thank you so much, Elder GoBlack2Africa. Godspeed.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.